What advice does an expert with 24 years of experience in the school bus world have for his successors? I'll have an interview with Alfred Karam of Shenendehowah Central Schools in New York in just a bit. Welcome to the Route School Bus Fleet's ongoing content series. I'm Wes Platt, Executive Editor. This episode of The Route is brought to you by our sponsor, Thomas Built Buses, a leader in pupil transportation. Click like on this and all our other videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel, connect with us on Facebook on the site formerly known as Twitter, and on LinkedIn. You're going to find links to social media channels in the details of this video. Okay, let's get rolling. Our first stop is Hawkins County, Tennessee, where more than 100 school bus drivers formed a line down the highway in a bright yellow demonstration of remembrance for Aleda Gladson. Gladson, 55, was at the wheel of bus number 109 with two student passengers when a pickup truck driven by an 18-year-old crossed into her lane and struck the bus, killing her. The children on the bus luckily only had minor injuries. Alex Spann, who serves as Director and Secretary for Region 2 of the National Association for Pupil Transportation, said Gladson's death hits close to home. Her 30 plus years of dedication to the Hawkins County school system is immeasurable and absolutely irreplaceable. The outpouring of support from districts across the state leading up to and throughout the memorial procession shows just how appreciated her work was and what an impact she had on her students, coworkers, and community. Our next stop is schoolbusfleet.com, where we recently conducted a flash poll of school bus drivers about their most challenging passengers. Overwhelmingly, it seems that middle school students are misbehaving the most, followed by elementary students, while high school students didn't really yield any complaints. Why? As some participants in the poll noted, maybe for middle schoolers, it's a restless and rebellious time in a child's life as they're going through changes that cause them to act out and assert independence, sometimes with negative results. Some recommendations from the professionals behind the wheel: say something and stick to it. Listen and show compassion. Be fair and consistent. Use positive reinforcement. And when all else fails, install cameras and let the principal handle behavior issues with documentation. You should also visit schoolbusfleet.com for the digital version of the March School Bus Fleet magazine, which includes our latest maintenance operations survey. You'll also find a link in the details of this video. Okay, our next stop is Clifton Park, New York, where Alfred Karam, a U.S. Marine who's been in school transportation for 24 years, is preparing to retire this summer from his role directing the bus fleet at Shenendehowah Central Schools. He recently took a few minutes to discuss his career, how the industry has evolved, and the challenges and opportunities that are awaiting the next generation of transportation professionals. Here's that interview. So, hey, good morning. I am with Alfred Karam from Shenendehowah Central School District in New York. And you've been with the district there for how long?
So I've been with Shen, we'll just refer to it as Shen for short, for the past 10 years. And prior to that, I spent 14 years at Bethlehem Central School District, which is about 23 miles south of us.
Okay, so total time you've been in school transportation, about 24 years?
24 years come in July, yes.
Okay. All right. And my understanding is you're about to retire or are retiring, what, this week or soon?
I'm going to retire at the end of July. However, yeah, I've made it a point to really put that out there in public to give the district and everyone else time to deal with it and go through the proper, hiring process, if you will, without putting pressure on everybody.
Right. Okay. So you're giving them more of a runway to get things going for you. Okay. And expecting to help with the transition.
That's correct. That's a promise I made to our superintendent in my direct report, and I will live up to that for sure.
Outstanding. So looking back 24 years ago. How did you get into this industry? How did you get into school transportation?
Well, I was in the Marine Corps for 25 years. I was in the motor transport field on the tactical side of the house. And, in the Marines, I went from private to an E9 Master Gunnery Sergeant. So I had a lot of leadership experience leading Marines and a lot of experience in the transportation sector. I did dispatch. I ran maintenance shops, engineer shops. I worked at the staff level. So when I got out of Marine Corps, an opportunity came. Bethlehem Central was looking for an assistant director of transportation. And believe it or not, I got in by accident. Someone else was being groomed for that. However, there were some internal conflicts and they looked for an outsider. That was me. I did not have a CDL with a B. I had a CDL-A. Have not been around yellow school buses, although on the base motor transport side of the Marine Corps, we do have green buses that transport students in sometimes. So yeah, I got in, and school transportation is a people's business, and I've had a lot of experience with that. So I brought those skill sets, which helped me a lot, and I brought in a lot of maintenance management skill sets, which helped me a lot. At that time, Bethlehem Central was experiencing around between 19 to 25% out of service rate, and they needed someone to fix that for them, which we were able to do in a short order of time.
That's great. Well, it sounds like you're, like a multi-tool that that districts have been lucky to have around all this time, and I'm sure they're going to miss. So, um, when you look back on these last couple of decades, and you've seen a lot of changes, I'm sure, in school transportation, what are the ones that stand out the most for you? Whether it's technology, changes to the buses themselves, the personnel, what are you seeing changed over time?
Sure. If we take technology first, I think the school buses certainly have gone through a lot of technological changes since I came in 2000. They've gotten better and better and better. However, with more technology, there are some drawbacks to that as well. Just look at your computers, look at your cell phone. You always have to learn new things. But I think the technology overall has been great, especially on the environmental side of the house, although it's been costly. I do believe in that. I think the direction that the school buses have gone, even from a safety perspective, your AI, your brake assist, for example, that we have on buses today, the camera systems, just a lot of great stuff. Look at the newest craze, which I think is the best thing ever to happen in my time, is the new school bus sign by, if it's okay if I say the company's name, by First Lady. I think that, to me, that's a game changer, the biggest game changer yet. So, yeah, I embrace technology if it makes sense, right? It has to make sense, both from a cost factor and operational safety factor. So yeah, and we've even worked with Seon here with their predictive stop arm. We demonstrated that a couple of times for them. So we're always trying to be at the cutting edge, again, where it makes sense and from a financial perspective and a safety perspective. On the personnel side of the house, I think we are seeing a demographic change in many different ways, right? Like when I started here at Shen 10 years ago, our community was predominantly made up of white Americans. And now we're maybe like 3% foreign born. Now we're up to like maybe around 20%. So foreign born versus white students or white community members, what have you. So we have to be able to adapt to that environment, irrespective of our politics. And I think, my department here certainly has made huge strides in that. One of the things that when I first took over and as we were going through the interview processes, if you brought in an applicant who had a very hard accent, that typically that person would be rejected. Why? Because, quote, dispatch can't understand what
Hmm.
on the radio, or the potentiality for that is there. So I put a stop to that because I'm foreign born, as is my mom and dad and brothers and sisters. And my mom had a very hard accent as well and had a difficult time getting jobs, whatever. But you know what? Once we crossed the Rubicon, if you will, and we brought these folks on, they become, your better employees, more reliable employees, I should say. And our ears begin to get in tune with their accent. I know that about language because I can still speak Arabic, and I've been deployed around the world a few times, to include Western Sahara, which they speak a different dialect than me, but I was able to tune in into that
Sure.
language.
Well, and I'm actually in a Greek Orthodox church on my side of things, and so there's a lot of Greek Americans, and some are Greek American that basically can't, they're first generation. And 10 years ago when I joined the church, I couldn't always make heads or tails of what they were saying. But like you said, every time your ear just you develop, you learn how to listen. And I think that's definitely a good thing for a community, especially if that community is changing, evolving, and getting more people who talk that way. Um, yeah, you have to change a little bit.
Yeah, and we had to even adapt our training, right? So
Mhm.
you got your camp presentations, and what we learned is some of the words, our trainees, they look at quizzically, they're not understanding maybe the way we're saying it. We have an English from England, a driver who is now one of our head trainers, who also had some issues and didn't understand some of the English words that we were saying. So we had to switch that up, to account for that and help these applicants, become successful and get their CDLs.
All right. Now, I've heard it said that the driver shortage across the nation isn't really anything new, that it's just more pronounced than it is in the past. Is that the way you see it as well? How has the driver shortage evolved?
So the driver shortage since I came in 2000 was there, and we dealt with it. It wasn't as pronounced. I think COVID really has done a number. I can't put my fingers on it. What I truly believe is, as the children of the greatest generation begin to get out of the workforce, there's not enough coming behind them to fill their shoes. Since COVID, or prior to COVID, we were interviewing on an average around 75 people a year to fill around 22, 23 uh, turnovers a year on the driver's side of the house. Well, that has dropped precipitously. We're lucky to break 35 interviews per year now
Hmm.
since COVID. And a department our size, these numbers can't sustain. I mean, every day we run anywhere between 35 to about 45 open driver positions. When I say, oh, and I use that word specifically because we started the school year with about 25 open positions. We
Hmm.
simply didn't have anybody to fill them. We don't have the subs, and the rest of that number is really the people who are out long-term, short-term, sick, personal leave, what have you. We're able to maintain services to the best of our ability, but the foot traffic, I keep data on this, the foot traffic just dried out. We're not getting the foot traffic. One of the things that we do to try to entice people to come, and I'm pretty sure Shen was the first in the nation to do test drive the bus event. I even wrote an
Hmm.
article in SBF back in 2016 that talked about some strategies to use, and I talked about that in that article. That's been our mainstay. We do that about 4 times a year. That has helped us keep our head above the water.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear that that's continuing to work at least a little bit. Yeah, the pandemic definitely, and I think transportation industry in general has seen some pretty significant hits with people saying that they don't want to do this kind of work anymore. Um, yeah. Now, when you're dealing with your community, the parents, the teachers, everybody that you're, and the kids on the buses. How has your district kind of evolved to manage communication and keep people informed?
Great question. So, for us, one of the first things I recognized when I got to Shen is we have to first off change the relationship between the transportation department and the building administrators. It was pretty toxic, uh, both from the driver, bus attendant side towards their educational colleagues and vice versa. And I did it, with a lot of personal interaction on both sides of the house. First, I want to demonstrate to the drivers that their concerns are going to be handled and they will get an answer to whatever their concern is. And I did the same thing with the school principals, the assistant principals. Whatever your problems are, they're going to be dealt with, and you're going to hear back what our solutions are. If you have a problem, we're going to help you out with it within the context of our laws, regulations, policies, and procedures. So that was a long haul. We went from, and to me, this data is really an indicator of our effort. We went from about 1,000 referrals a year, and many of them were not responded back to. They were in the system. The school year closes out and they're still open, to around 300 some odd referrals per year, and all but maybe 3 or 4 or 5 that were done in the last month of the school year that aren't closed. So to me, that's an indicator of that relationship building that we did. We also got Buster, the robotic school bus. We started a program for K-5. We got into the schools to talk about, school bus safety and get other people within the education community to see what we're all about. Brandon, we certainly do work hard on branding the department, what we do for the community, what we do for the students in many different ways. We're always highlighting that, whether be it on LinkedIn or sharing stories and pictures with our public information person, who then puts it out on the district social media. Yeah.
Okay. And kind of looking ahead, crystal ball time, your successor who comes in, what challenges and opportunities do you think they and other people coming into this industry are going to face in the next few years?
That's a great one. So I think the biggest one is really getting people in that want to drive. That's the biggest. The next one that's like parallel with that is especially in the state of New York. I can't speak for other states, but the electrification of the school bus fleet mandate. I think that is a huge, huge challenge. I seriously doubt for a lot and again, my comments are coming strictly from an operational perspective.
Right.
Has nothing to do with politics, has nothing to do with anything else. I honestly don't see how we can meet the mandate in the state of New York in the timeline that the governor has said we have to do it in. There's a lot of operational challenges, and I'll give you a quick example, right? So we have 4 fuel pumps to handle a fleet of 217 buses. 3 are diesel, 1 is gasoline. We rarely have a problem with that. So for me, I sit here and I look down the road to 2035. I have 217 buses, all electric, and I'm going to have about 115 chargers. Each one can charge 2 buses. So based on what we know today, based on articles I read, on an average, 25% of chargers, and this is by the way, on a study that was done out in San Francisco, on any given day, 25% of the chargers in San Francisco don't work. So if I take that number and I throw it out of fleet 217, that equates to about 58 buses that may not have gotten charged at night. Can I run the school district with 58 buses not being charged? The answer is no.
Yeah.
And the length of time it takes to fix these chargers, you can't do it right away. You can't do it overnight. In some cases, we just bought 2, by the way, two portable chargers for the shop. These are 450 or 480 volts chargers, 3-phase. And one of them, straight out of the box, didn't work. needed a part change, and that took about a week to get it in. So imagine if you come in and find 20 or 25% of your chargers needed a part change, and it's going to take a week to get those parts in. A huge challenge. I really feel sorry for my colleagues in the future. Uh, you know, I just don't see how this is going to work, just from an operational perspective.
It's interesting to me. Again, politics aside, it's just from a standpoint. Even, I mean, the charging technology, I assume, is going to get better and more reliable. But even just building the buses and getting them produced on the line rapidly enough. I mean, it's not as if New York is the only state getting buses. Yeah, and there are companies building buses all across the country because the federal money is being distributed everywhere. Yeah, it is going to be interesting to see. I just whether or not any of the political machinations of trying to slow down the mandate are successful or not. I just have a feeling at some point the governor's office is just going to have to kind of say, we're not going to get there. It's a great goal to have. It's a good ambition to have, but yeah, I don't know that they're going to be able to keep the mandate a mandate.
What I wish they would have done is allowed us to not just experiment, but come up with a percentage. Can we meet a 20% turnover? Yeah, we probably could meet a 20%, 25% turnover. Can I run the transportation department meet the mission with about 20-25% electric fleet, and the rest, ICE, internal combustion engine power? Yeah, I could. Might have to increase the fleet a little bit to compensate for vehicles being out. We pride ourselves, Wes, on we have almost a 90% same day turnover on buses here in the shop. And because any write-up that the driver has or whatever, we bring it in, fix it, turn it around, put it back out. Very little buses are out of here for more than 2 days. And those that are out more than 2 days is typically, maybe a huge mechanical issue or whatever. But I don't know if that's going to be the case with electric buses. We have a sister district that is experiencing 20% out of service with their 6 electric buses, 20% on a daily basis. Yes, these buses are under warranty. Yes, the warranty is covering, but you know what? Warranties do run out. So if I'm seeing that right now, 20% on a daily basis, again, operationally speaking, from a financial perspective, when the warranty is over with, what is the cost going to be for the district then? And I would venture to say it's going to be huge, and all the savings people are talking about, fuel and all that, that's going to evaporate. One battery is 70 to 80,000, one battery pack to change. That's what it's costing these people to the south of us here. So cooling system, 40,000. For 70,000 a year, I can do oil and filter changes on my entire fleet. Buses right now. So, yeah.
Yeah, we definitely are in the early stages of this technology, and it's going to have to balance out at some point to be realistic.
I agree.
All right. My last question is, what is next for you come July when you retire? What are you going to do next? What is retirement looking like?
Well, I appreciate that question. So right now, what retirement looks like is, first, my health. I really need to take some time and do some things to improve my health. And as I'm doing that, the other thing that I wanted to do is I want to write a book. Now, I don't know if it's going to be a memoir. I don't know if it's going to be, about this, that, or the other, but it will certainly going to cover me as an immigrant, where I live, challenges there, coming to the United States, challenges faced upon arrival, joining the Marine Corps, 25-year career, encapsulate some of those experiences and encapsulate some of the experiences in the school transportation industry. Whether people buy the book or not, I don't care. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to publish it because that's been a goal of mine, and I'm going to do it.
Well, let us know when you do, because I would like to read it, first of all. And I'm sure plenty of people, really enjoy seeing your posts on LinkedIn. and getting your insights. I think that's really been beneficial. And if people aren't already connected with you on LinkedIn, I think they should reach out and at least look at those posts if they're interested in school transportation. All right. Well, thank you so much, and thanks for your service and your in the military, and thank you for the work you've done in school transportation. I'm sure we will talk again soon.
Looking forward to it, Wes. Thank you so very much, and thank SBF for all that it does for the school transportation industry, sir.
Anytime. Thanks again to Alfred for taking the time. All right, it's time to park the bus for now. Thank you for watching. Please tell your friends about the route. If you've got news, reach out to me by email at wes.platt@bobbitt.com. Connect with us on LinkedIn and Facebook. Sign up for our twice-weekly email newsletters at schoolbusfleet.com. Thank you again to our sponsor, Thomas Built Buses, a leader in pupil transportation. Drive safely, and we'll see you next time on The Route.